Hello rock fans, my name is Scott Wilkins. Welcome to my Lapidary shop. You might not recognize me, although I do put out a bunch of rock videos. Maybe you recognize these grimy hands of mine. That's normally all you see on my videos. Well, what I'm going to do in this video is show you the shop in which I get these grimy hands, so come along. Let's begin with an overview of the shop. I'm going to give you a complete rundown of the equipment I use and how it's laid out within the shop. Before I start the overview, I should tell you that this is a new house that I just moved into and a new shop. Previously, I was in a rental house where I was using the two-car garage as my lapidary shop. And it worked out fine. However, I did learn some lessons along the way, and I think I've made some improvements in this shop. And hopefully, some of these little hacks I've come up with will help you with your lapidary shop. All right, let's begin on the left side. First up is this 10-inch combination saw. This one's water-cooled. Next to that is the 18-inch slab saw. This one's oil-cooled. It does have the Everclean system to keep the oil nice and clean. Next, that's the most important thing in this entire shop. That is a sink. That's probably the main reason why I bought this house, was because this third garage bay had a sink in it. Next to that, the tumblers are down there, and up there, and over there. Of course, everything's turned off right now because it gets a little noisy when those are running. Then right around the corner here is this cabochon machine. Next to that, we've got the dryer, the flat lap, the high-speed trim saw, the wet belt sander, and over here is the low-speed sphere making machine. And finally, underneath this one, is the vibratory flat lap. All right, so let me start telling you about some of the advantages of this new layout. As you can see, I've got all of my tumbling stuff in one corner. All of the supplies for the tumbling are right above them, so I've got a whole range of grits to use here, from I think all the way down to 14 grit, all the way up to the 3 different types of polishes here. A little borax, some water, and some extra barrels up there and extra sprayers. So I have all that right here with a big workbench to keep the stones organized and to check them out. Got the hammer and the chisel to break apart the rough ones. I can individually turn on and off the tumblers with those switches. Got a little magnifying lighted inspection lamp there. Keep the coarse grit that I use, the 6090, in that big container there. But what's nice about this is if I'm working on rocks, I'm checking them out after a tumble and I see that there needs to be something ground off, all I have to do is basically turn to the right, and I'm right here in front of the cabbing machine. This is very convenient. I can simply get on the really coarse grit wheel here and shape it if I need to. Now, like before in the old shop, I've got this thing elevated and slightly angled back. You'll see why that's important here in just a moment. So right next to the cabbing machine is this little setup here where I've got the lighted inspection light, and then this little blower I've got set up. It's controlled by this foot switch right here. So when I step on the foot switch, like so, it quickly dries the stones. In the old shop, I had the wet belt sander next to the cabbing machine. But what I found when I'm using this flat lap right here, especially on the coarser grits, I really need to dry and inspect the stones, and it wasn't convenient to have to move 10 feet to get over to this thing in this inspection area here. So now I've put these two next to each other, which means if I'm sitting here using the flat lap, trying to inspect for scratches, I just simply, again, step on the foot switch, dry it off, and check it out. That works out really well. I should point out too that these shelves were one of the first things that went in when I started moving in. I put them into these studs, so they will hold a lot of weight. I already showed you on this side is the tumbling accessories, but what I tried to do is keep all the accessories near the machines. Well, that's not necessarily an accessory. Those are a couple of ultrasonic cleaners, but you can see some wheels for the cabbing machine over here. Right above the flat lap, we've got all the different discs. The cheap ones, you know, the cheap ones from China that I get on Amazon, which actually work pretty well, and the not so cheap ones from Covington that are either solid or foam backed. Over here, we've got some accessories for the wet belt sander, which is right here. And we have accessories for the vibratory flat lap, which is down here, of course. And finally, we have the accessories for the spear making machine, which is right here. My OCD loves it. Several of these machines are water cooled. So let me show you the solution I came up with for running water through these systems and how I drain it. In the old shop, I let the water just drain out into the yard, and that worked fine, except it was a bit of a waste of water. The way I'm doing it now, I can see how much water I'm using and maybe conserve a little, which is probably not a bad thing. Since 4 of these machines are water cooled, I decided to use the same system I had at the old place, which is I tap into the incoming water line with that little fitting right there, and that valve, that blue valve, I just crank that open and suddenly that pressurizes all that 1/4-inch line that you see go down the wall there. That feeds each one of these machines, the cabbing machine, the flat lap, the high-speed trim saw, and the wet belt sander. Now, in the old setup, I had all these draining into a bucket, and then that bucket would overflow into a tube that would go outside. I've done it differently here. I've got all of those machines coming down to this point here, this low point where they drip into this bucket, which I can keep an eye on. That way I know how much water I'm using. And as I said before, I have this cabbing machine elevated and tilted back. That really helps the flow of the water. The same is true for all these other machines. You see they're slightly elevated to help with the flow of the water coming out. So there are no backups in those lines. Next up is the lighting. I want you to see how I did the lighting in this shop. It was very important to me to have a lot of good bright light to work with. My eyes are getting a little bit older now, so I need as much light as I can get. And I came up with some pretty simple and inexpensive solutions to make it nice and bright in here. Lighting is so important for me. I'll show you what I did here. It was really simple. You see, right there where the original light was for the garage, I added one of those little extensions with 2 outlets on it. They're cheap. You get those on Amazon for $8. I went ahead and attached one of the bright LED shop lights, and then off that extension I have 2 hanging LED lights that are plugged in and very, very easily mounted to the ceiling on those hooks. They're lightweight, they're not expensive. That way when I come in and turn the light on in the shop, it really lights this area up. Very simple to do. And in addition to that, I put these lights, which were on tripods in my old setup. I just mounted them to underneath the shelving system that I've put together here. These lights as well over here, which I've got turned off right now, but when these lights are turned on, they make this camera do crazy things. I was hoping to show you how bright this area can be, but again, it messes with this camera, so I don't have them on right now. But you can imagine with those 3 shining down, what it can do to the light in this area here, where I need it most. A big part of this video is going to be this equipment review. I want you to know what I like and don't like about the different pieces of equipment I use. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I paid for all this myself, so I am in no way obligated to say good or bad. I just want to give you my honest opinion of all the different pieces I use. Now let's do a little equipment review. First is the Barranca Diamond BD10 combination saw. I've had this for a couple of months now. I've shown you it in a couple of videos already. Overall, I like it. I must say I like it. It was a little pricey. The construction quality was a little troubling. You can see, for example, here, the splash guard is not at all lined up. And I tried to get that lined up, but it's just not lined up. That was one minor issue that I noticed right away. Otherwise, it's fine. It does good. I like that you can easily lift it up here and get to the blade, clean the sludge out if you need to. One thing I did differently here, notice that I've got it on these 2x4s. Now, the reason I did that is because I told you before I use this with just water and an additive, but you still don't want to leave it sitting in there because it will rust the blade. So what I do is when I'm done cutting, I simply remove this front piece, which then lets this tilt down nicely, and I open this and drain everything out into a bucket. So that's why I did that. Before, at the old shop, I was having to try to lift the back up. That thing's actually pretty heavy. You don't want to be doing that while you're trying to hold something down here to catch the runoff. I also put in these little splash guards here because when I'm cutting, the water is going everywhere. So that, the one in the back of the one there will help with the water, the splash. Next up, we have the big Highland Park Lapidary 18-inch slab saw. What can I say? I really like this thing. It does leak a little bit. Well, it's probably just the way I'm doing it, but what I've done to combat that, and I'll show you this on the other machines as well, I've put up stuff along the walls and on the floor that hopefully will help this stay clean in years to come. We'll see. I also have these lights here to help see things. I can, of course, do it either way, depending upon what I'm trying to see. That works out well. So I think, yes, this is a great saw. If you're in the market for an 18-inch slab saw, you cannot go wrong. The construction quality is awesome, and it cuts beautifully. So next up, let's talk about this capping machine here. Also Highland Park Lapidary. I like it a lot. It's had some issues. I've said before in another video that I did have to replace the bearings. They were getting very, very noisy and vibrated quite a bit. But Highland Park sent me another pair. I moved my heavy wheels to the two inner positions. These are the big, heavy centered wheels. They weigh a lot. As opposed to having them out at the edge. Originally I had the two heavy ones here and here, and I think that might have helped contribute to the bearings doing what they did. So now I've got it more balanced. It works out really well. Next is the Covington. This has also been great. I have no issues with this. What I did, I showed you that I have those cheap Chinese made thin discs I use, but to use those I had to get this little backing plate and a little nut here. I found some stainless steel hardware. That's aluminum. So they fit on there nicely. Even though they're thin, they have this backing plate so I can still put a lot of pressure on them. This works well. It's just a tank, no problem. No problems at all. And again, I said I've got all the different types of laps I can throw on there. Next up, of course, the high-speed trim saw. Another awesome little machine from Highland Park Lapidary. No problems with this. It does a great job cutting. I guess if I had a complaint, it's very minor, but you see the rust from the paint and the steel right there. That's unfortunate, but it's just, hey, it's still gonna last a long time. It would have been nice had they made that top plate out of stainless steel, but they didn't. So that's the one little issue, is that it does rust. I showed you how I've got it draining directly down into the bucket. The wet belt sander, oh, this thing's awesome. I'm going to start using different grits. I'm going to try maybe to do an entire cabochon using just this machine. So I've been picking up these different grits. I've got in there, I think there's a 120, a 220, and the 600. And then that's a 8,000, and that's that cerium. I'll need to get a couple, like a 1,200 and maybe a 3,000, but I might try that. Just make a entire cabochon just using this. What I really like about it is on this side, this, of course, is the polishing felt. It's actually suede or leather. I spray that with a little cerium water mixture, so that works out well. This, of course, is the sphere making machine. No problems with this. It's a process, but it's not this machine's fault. It just takes a long time to make those rocks into preforms using the slab saw. It's an all-day project to cut it. You have to cut it several dozen times to get it into the shape where you can eventually get it onto this machine. But once it's on this machine, it goes fine. And a few hours later, you have a nice shiny sphere. So finally, this Barranca Diamond, it's Diamond Pacific. This Diamond Pacific 18-inch vibratory lap. This again works great. I had the Covington before, but I prefer this. It's a better build quality, and it does a good job. Notice how I've encapsulated it with some foam and other pieces to try to contain the mess, because these do get messy. But now I can let this thing run and not worry about the splashes getting everywhere. Overall, I like that one a lot. Rock tumblers are a big part of what I do. I've got several, and I've worked with several, so I want to review those as well. Now let's talk about these tumblers. Okay, that's what you've all been waiting for. Now, first of all, I should say I've had a lot of different tumblers. I've used, you can see here, I've used the Tumblers, the Diamond Pacific. This is a vintage Sears. There's a little lower tone 33B, and they're still fine. I can still use all these. Well, I say all these. This Tumbler's had a problem. The motor just didn't do well. The bearing that holds the armature just gave away, and the thing seized up on me. So I stopped using that, and I went to the Raytech Adjust-A-Vibe 18. This is my new favorite. With this one, I can adjust the intensity, the action, with a little counterweight at the bottom. I'm using the Tumbler's bowl because I believe this is a much better design than the one that came with this Adjust-A-Vibe. But this one right now is my favorite. I really like this. I think it's gonna do great. The other one I'm using is the Raytech Tumbler Vibe, the TV10. A little noisy, but it does a good job. I've currently got a batch in there that for some videos I'm making for you guys, and I've got it turned off now because when I turn it on, yes, it's very loud. So I've got that off right now, but that does a very good job. We got the Beast. This is the C300 lower tone. And the other little beast here is the C20. Then this is the homemade thing I'm using. This can fit several barrels. Right now I've just got a couple ready because I'm focusing now on just doing these videos. So these barrels contain some of the rocks that I've currently got that are being put together for the videos I put out on YouTube. And again, I got that turned off because if I were to turn it on, it's a little bit loud. So we'll keep it off for now. So I like the lower tones a lot. I like the Raytechs a lot. I'm not a big fan of the Tumblers because again, it just wore out. I never had a lot of luck with the Diamond Pacific, that vibratory tumbler. It works, but I just never had great results with it. And of course, the lower tone 33B is great. It's like a classic. And this old Sears was just sort of a fun project. Wouldn't recommend it. You can't get those very easily anyway. I got that off of, I think, eBay. So there you go. That is the Tumbler review. Now that you've seen all the equipment, let me show you the rocks I'm working with. I need to point out that I have 3 sources of rocks. Self-collected. I do go rock hounding here in Central Texas and other parts of the state. Purchasing them at my local rock shop named Nature's Treasures here in Austin, or I buy rock off of Facebook sellers or on eBay or on the internet in general, some of the big rock shops like the Rock Shed or Kingsley North. Now I've been doing this for a while, and I usually, when I get some extra money, invest it in rocks, so I have a pretty good collection to show you. Let's take a look at some of these. Well, as you can see, lots of purchasing rocks has given me quite a little collection here. Now, in these containers, there may only be 1, 2, or 3 different samples of each, but they all have something in them. So you can see all the different jaspers, and then a bunch of different kinds of agates. Lots of different agates here. Some more agates, some quartz, some other things. Not bad, not bad. Let's see what we got down here. Oh, more agates. Bahias, Lagunas, Moctezumas, black lace agates, black agates, Cripple Creek jaspers, fancy jaspers. Like I said, there may only be 1 or 2 examples in some of these, so it's not as prolific as it might look on the outside. Here's just some miscellaneous. I think those are mostly Montana agates. Then we've got some self-collected lanite, some tiger's eye, some mini Mexican thunder eggs down there, common plume opal. This is some dendritic opal that I haven't had a chance to play with yet. There's a big container of the island agate. These, I think I'm going to do a big tumbling video with those. Here's a big container of the Brazil agate. And just some miscellaneous agates that have been cut and some have been polished. I don't know what I'm going to do with these. Got a big container of the Oregon thunder eggs there. I'll be cutting those in videos. You'll see some of those shortly. Some stromatolite, prairie agates, sagonitic agates. Lots of good stuff here. Some big chunks of, I guess that's, what is that stuff? Oh, that's chert, like banded chert I've been tumbling. Here's some self-collected petrified wood from East Texas. I've got some videos out on that, and I'm currently tumbling some of that right now. Over here, let's see, at the top we've got finished rocks. I don't know what I'm gonna do with all those. Cabochons and polished rocks. Probably just give them to friends. These are all filled with slabs. I've been doing a lot of cutting over the years. More slabs down here. It's a big variety. Any kind of cabochon you want to make, there's probably a slab for it here. Oh, and then here's just some of the rough rock. Now most of this stuff came from Facebook sellers. Some really cool stuff in here. Oh, here's some more petrified wood. There's some bigger stones for cutting. Big variety of stuff there. Starting here are the fossils. I just got these the other day. This is coral fossil right here. Fossilized coral. I'll be making some videos with this soon. This is mostly self-collected fossil rock here. You can see these are just big shells, fossilized shells. See like an old Turritella agate there. Some other goodies. This is selenite here, I believe. This is self-collected. Neat stuff, but it's really soft. There's not much you can do with it. It's still beautiful. And we've got more cutting stones here. Big variety. And even bigger stuff down here. Ready to go into the 18-inch slab saw. Just some accessories up here. See some dopping supplies. These filters, I'm trying something new. I'm experimenting with collecting the slurry from tumbling into these big coffee filters. I think it's working so far. It takes a couple days for that to drip through, and then it's just a big, thick mess. At that point, you can take it and I dump it into a trash can there. So it's a new way of trying to dispose of the slurry. I'm still working on it. Now finally, I do make a lot of videos now on YouTube. I really enjoy it a lot. It's a lot of fun for me. And getting the response I have from some of these videos, you guys are terrific. If I get 100 views, I'm really happy. And if it goes over that, I'm ecstatic. I didn't get into this to make money or anything. I just did it because I was enjoying watching so many other rock videos on YouTube. I thought, why not participate and put some of my own out there? If you watch my videos, you can see they're evolving. I'm trying to sort of find my way. I have a format I like now. I think I'm going to stick with. Let me show you the studio in which I make all these videos. Okay, here is the setup I use to make my videos. There's my little whiteboard that I use as a backdrop. I also have, this is a lighted board here. I can use this if I want to put a slab down and see through it. So I can put that down. Got the bright light above it, and then I added this second light, which is a LED light. There's some of the rocks that I've recently finished that are turned into videos now. You'll be seeing those shortly. This is the light box that rotates. I've only used that once. I need to get into using that more. That's kind of fun. And finally, the little microscope that I use for doing the close-ups, the rocks up close videos. So I just hang the iPhone right there, get everything set up and focused, zoom in and out. Works out pretty well. There you go, that's my little rock film studio. So now you see how I make the videos. I should also point out that a couple of months ago, I had a message from YouTube saying that I could monetize these videos. I had never intended on monetizing these videos, but I thought, why not? They're out there. They don't make much, maybe 80 cents a day. But a couple of months have gone by now, and it's nearly $100. And once it gets to $100, I believe if I read the fine print correctly, YouTube will send me the money. So here's my promise to you. Once I get that first payment from the advertising revenue, thanks to you people, I will take it to the rock shop and get some rocks. Maybe I'll take you along, make a little video of it. Get some rocks, $100 worth of rocks, and bring them back here and have some fun with them. How does that sound? Thank you so much for watching this little video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some good information from it. If you're putting together a lapidary shop of your own, maybe this helped. Hopefully it helped. If you haven't, maybe this will get you thinking about putting together a little lapidary shop. They are lots of fun to have if you've got the space for one. Thank you again for watching. I appreciate it.